In this video, we want to talk about an interesting little thing called substantives. Substantives are adjectives that do not modify anything. Usually adjectives modify something, right? The tall building, the fast cheetah, whatever. They modify a noun, but substantives are adjectives that do not modify anything. Take, for example, a sentence like this. The meek will inherit the earth, but the arrogant will not see God. Well, we have two adjectives here. We have meek and we have arrogant. Now, what does that really mean? Well, lots of things could be meek. You could have a meek cat. You could have an arrogant tiger. I mean, you could have all kinds of things. But somehow or another, we just seem to know in English that we really mean the meek people will inherit the earth, but the arrogant people will not see God. So even though we don't have a word for the two adjectives meek and arrogant to modify, somehow we just know what's being implied there. Well, with Latin, we actually get a little bit more information. In Latin, substantives are translated based on gender. So for a masculine substantive, a masculine adjective that doesn't modify anything, you're going to assume a male, either a boy or a man, depending on the context of your story. If you have a feminine substantive, in other words, a feminine adjective that doesn't modify anything, you assume a female, a girl or a woman, again, depending on the context of your story. And for a neuter substantive, you assume a thing. So let's look at this example sentence. Romani pulchras et antiqua ama verunt. So what you want to do right now is circle the substantives, circle the adjectives in this sentence that do not modify anything. Again, you can pause the video and then press continue when you're done. And you should have circled Romani, pulchras, and antiqua. Now, using first declension endings for feminine and second declension endings for masculine and neuter, identify the case, number, and gender of each substantive. Again, pause the video while you do your work and then press continue to check. So Romani ends with an I, so that's a second declension. And since it could be plural here with the amaverunt verb, we're seeing that as a nominative plural masculine. Pulchras, AS, only appears in first declension, so that has to be feminine then, accusative plural feminine. Now the A of antiqua could be from first declension or second declension. But if it were for first declension, it would have to be nominative singular, and we know that can't be right because the verb is amaverunt, and that's plural. You can't have a singular nominative, a singular subject, with a plural verb. So the only other thing A could be is something from the neuter, and that could either be nominative or accusative plural. Well, it's unlikely that things, since neuter substantives are things, it's unlikely that things would be loving something. So we can assume that it's not nominative, that word can't be the subject, and will in fact be accusative, plural, and neuter. Now go ahead and try to translate that sentence, remembering that if it's masculine, you assume a male, if it's feminine, you assume a female, and if it's neuter, you assume a thing. Pause the video and press continue when you're ready to go on. Since we assume that Romani is masculine, we can say the Roman boys loved, and then since pulchras is feminine, we can say beautiful girls, and since antiqua is neuter, ancient things. So that's the key about substantives. You want to pay attention to the gender, and that will tell you kind of how to translate that substantive.